Okay, so this is our color script demo, and for our demo we wanted to look at a story sequence that we actually removed from our film The Dam Keeper. So this is kind of a fun thing. This was a sequence that was in the film where our main character has gotten distracted looking at this sketchbook, and in getting kind of all wrapped up in the sketchbook, he forgets about his responsibility to wind up this dam. And this dam is holding back pollution. And so if he doesn't get back in time, the danger is that the windmill stops, or the kind of fan windmill stops of the dam, and the pollution starts to bleed into town. And so this is the sequence, let's watch it real quick, of our pig running from school, and we see the dam there up above. His alarm goes off. And the pollution starts to come in. We see the pollution coming in. He puts on his mask, runs into his dam, and we hear the gears start to turn. And we see the fan start to blow things back, only to cut back into the dam to see him kind of, phew, made it. So this is the sequence.
Yep.
Took that sequence and we broke it out into kind of 6 panels, 6 rough panels, to tell the story. And previous to this is one painting was done about the pig in the classroom with the sketchbook, and that was the lighting that was set up in the previous sequence. And so now, you know, as a responsibility, we've got to connect to that sequence and tell this story of a pig who just barely saved the town from complete disaster. So the idea that I had to convey that is this, as a color, is to start with this kind of warm light, but that warm light turns into this kind of darkening of the sky and this menacing kind of red from, you know, what I think is maybe light filtering through that pollution.
I see.
So yeah, and so I took this idea and said, okay, what will that look like? So now I get into kind of the first painting, painting the school exterior shot. And so I start with just, like everything else, fairly neutral lighting, establish kind of overall light or local color. And then just, you know, you can see here tending towards warm a little bit overall. But just start painting in this lighting of this, you know, late in the day light hitting the front of this schoolyard, school building. And this is a layout that we had from the actual film. Yeah. This camera is actually set up over a CG model that you can see in the back there.
So at this point, you already established the basic thinking of, you know, going from orange to kind of reddish tone. And now you are finding that sort of first panel, like with the orange feeling. And but, you know, just like any other paintings we've been doing, you started off with somewhat kind of neutral, or at least because knowing that you can push the temperature later.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, my big thing right now is like we have this kind of afternoon lighting that's happening late in the day before the sun goes down. I just want to make sure that it's not this sweet romantic moment. I want it to be as kind of harsh as I can make it. This is not sort of a positive moment. I want to make sure that it's kind of this moment of panic for our pig. And so I'm starting to look at this and I'm thinking, it kind of feels a little sweet, schoolhouse kind of thing. And I just want to start taking that and, you know, starting to figure out how, at this point, I'm really thinking about how can I achieve that feeling.
The shadows, you know, you are keeping pretty sharp and dark, and, you know, just not as, you know, you would think normally with a very kind of a bright blue fill light or something like that, but it seems like you're intentionally kind of keeping everything somewhat underexposed. You know, you see more on the light side and the shadow gets pretty dark kind of thing.
Yeah, that was my general thinking, is to avoid kind of the beautiful blue fill light, and keep the shadows pretty dark and harsh, and almost like it's afternoon light with almost a warming filter on the lens that would almost cast a warmth over everything.
Is that what the the layer is with orange.
Yeah, exactly.
What are you using, like an overlay or something?
Yeah, so it's a warm overlay, probably set on about 60 or 70%.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't completely obliterate all the local color that's under there, but just kind of push it towards that warmth without destroying the value structure. And then here, painting in some subtle reflections that we had talked about a little bit in the glass, in the window, since it would be dark inside, since the classroom lights would be off, and the light behind us would be brighter.
Yep.
Yeah, and overall, I just felt like I could be a little more. I can get that feeling a little more if I brightened up and warmed up even more. And so that's kind of what this is right here.
But only on the lit.
Only on the lit
side, yeah.
Increasing the contrast, basically.
Using adjustment layers, huh?
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
So that's kind of, it's a quick painting, but a really rough study of something that I felt like was capturing that feeling.
Yeah.
And then from here, I wanted to connect into the wide exterior shot of the dam. So same sort of thing. I painted this as if it's all in shadow and kind of being lit by this bit of a cool light. That's this over, blue fill.
Yeah.
So everything has slightly will have a slight cool tint to it.
What is the, like when you are given the color script assignment, then oftentimes we have to work off of like a storyboard, panels, or something really rough. I mean, how much of that sort of architectural details and, the drawings you have to worry about?
Purely as composition, I think, not so much as structural design work kind of thing. I think overall for color script paintings, I always don't like, if a painting ends up solving a lot of problems, that's great. But in its kind of inception, I'm really just thinking about color, overall feeling. So if in a shot like this, the scale helps, then I want to make sure I put, indications of what the scale is. But overall, I just really try to stick true to capturing the overall feeling, the impression of the design work of it. For me, I don't know. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, the same thing. I mean, mine's even looser than this, oftentimes, because you are really trying to convey. The thing is that, but I also at the same time, I hate when you neglect everything except for just the pattern of colors. And then that's like you're just kind of doing for sake of ideas, and you're not really communicating certain feeling you may want to communicate with the audience. If the director is like, I don't know, I get the idea, but then I don't know if it's going to work.
Like?
Yeah. If, there's sometimes certain color script I've seen the people do that it's all just the color patterns, and I'm like, well, then you might as well not do it. Like, what, you know what I mean? Like, if you're making imagery, like, you have to still make sure that, to me, it's the feeling, and I have to be the judge myself. If I don't feel a certain way, I have to somehow figure out to make sure that I feel something. And you need a certain level of details to convey that. And oftentimes, the character poses are kind of important for me, at least. If the character is not in the right pose, if they're stiff, it doesn't help my pitch,
Yes, absolutely. You're totally right, because it kind of can defeat, no matter how you light it, it might defeat the feeling you're trying to convey. If your character's like, if it's supposed to be a serious moment, your character's got this big goofy smile on their face.
Totally.
It can change the feeling of it completely.
Right. Tell me, like, if we could just, if you could, because, while we're talking about it, how did you come to this kind of, pretty extreme sort of lighting effects?
Yeah, I think that I thought about a couple things. One big thing I thought of is where we're coming from, which is this kind of warm light and kind of harsh warm light that we had in the beginning. And then on top of that, I wanted to stay in that feeling, but also knowing that I eventually wanted to go into these backlit pollution to get this reddish color, the sunlight filtering through the clouds to make this really red kind of light. So I didn't, I felt like because of that, I had to start in a fairly pushed area. I had to start in this really warm kind of scene, so that when we pushed to red, it wasn't, it felt like going from a blue sky into a red, like reddish kind of filled sky, felt like too big of a push for me. Like within that, it felt like I wanted to start off in a fairly pushed place, so that where we're going doesn't seem unbelievable or too distracting from it. And so that's kind of, the idea of where the cloud starts. And then I actually just start animating almost like if the pollution started raising up out of the over the dam and started to kind of rise, is literally the way. It's similar to in our past lectures how we played with lighting. It's like turning a lighting off, and this is literally like moving the clouds and not moving the sun necessarily very much. And so because of that, it's fairly simple, but it's starting to block the sun. Yeah. So this is the idea.
It was important for your pitch in a way that even though it might be just a matter of 2 seconds, but then this change had to be conveyed in paintings.
Absolutely. I think as a color, working on the color script, it's important to convey how all of these ideas connect with each other.
Yeah.
Because then also I want to take it from here and get into this red lighting. So what happens when, again, the pollution rises even more and begins to block out the sun? And in particular, I think I struggled a lot with this painting. One thing I needed to do was look at reference of backlit clouds and how a cloud can almost feel like it's lit from within. So this is a great reference I pulled off the web.
Because it's translucent.
Because clouds are translucent, so they allow light to pass through them. And in that, it's not a white cloud. It's actually this kind of polluted cloud with this really warm light behind it. And so I took that idea, and to be honest, I don't know if this would exactly happen like this, but I feel like this is the feeling I wanted of these kind of backlit red light coming through in the clouds. And also because of it, the sun getting blocked, I also played with a little more blue fill, filling in some of the shadow side of the town and stuff.
Yeah.
And that also is playing with the blue fill is also in thinking about the future of the sequence, showing the pig running in those closer shots of him.
That's crazy. Like almost looks like a nuclear bomb just went off or something.
Yeah. And that's the hope, is to really get that catastrophic feeling that if these clouds come over, they're extreme. It's dangerous. Bad things will happen.
Village.
Exactly.
And like that's the key, right? Like you are trying to convey that particular feeling. The reality is important because it has to be believable, but more than that, it's important to make sure that you let audience feel certain way, just so that your story can be enhanced.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is great. This looks like a crazy explosion.